Good day to you. We found that the people of America have voted President Trump as president. This caused quite a stir in some media channels because they didn't expect this. So, what was the real point and what was the real battle? There are nation leaders who are speaking about their nation, and there are nation leaders and planners, global planners, who want to take down every nation, all nations, under a global plan for economics, governance, and for health mandates. So, when a nation leader who stands up for his nation comes into office, there's a lot of criticism about how unfit he is for that office. So this has been going on for the last 30 years, and the appointment of President Trump as a head of a very large nation, a very powerful nation, will certainly make those who are planning globally to take all nations under their wing, under their government, under their hammer, calculate again how to do what to do. So all debt schemes that get nations into debt ultimately getting nations like Sri Lanka to sell up our own national resources at very low value to outsiders. That's how the debt trap is laid in order to take over that nation. Now, the Word of God has prophesied this in the last book of the Bible. This is how it says: when he broke the third seal, come, looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. So, weapon of this equine phenomenon is a pair of scales manipulating economics. Why is it depicted by a horse? But it will be a mega trend that will swiftly take over the world. And it happened between 1990 and 2020. The world's GDP began to be controlled by increasingly a very powerful 1%. So people lost much, sovereign nations lost much, and a few people gained the scales of manipulating economics. This is how the Bible has pictured it, as a black horse with, and the rider has a powerful pair of scales. What is the pair of scales doing? I heard something like a voice saying, a little bit of wheat will cost the day's wages. At that time, it was called denarius. 3 quarts of barley will cost a day's wage. So there's going to be a grain shortage. Food will become very expensive, but the rich and the prosperous will keep doing very well. There's another phenomenon that's called the red horse, went out, and he who sat on it, it was granted to take peace from the earth. So the red horse has a rider who has a sword in his hand, and that phenomenon, that plan creates conflicts where nations lose their money, economy, lose their people, and the conflicts cause many to migrate into other nations, and they become citizens of nobody's land. In their migration, they lose a lot in their country of origin, and in their next country also, they get very little. Now, there was a time when people migrated in the 1970s, 1980s for better prospects. But this newly engineered migration, under the influence of this red horse, whose rider is carrying a sword, is all about political unrest that is engineered. So you will remember that in many African countries, political unrest that was engineered began to scatter their own people into other countries. Then here is the fourth horse, is described as an ashen gray horse, livid in color, and he has a rider, and what follows the rider is death, sword, famine, and pestilence. So it's a strange thing that since 2019 we are told, expect a pestilence. Therefore, the prick is needed. And when you take the prick, your immunity goes wrong. I'm Dr. Lalith Mendis. I was formerly the founding head of Department of Pharmacology in a state medical faculty. I have published much on this, how the immunity change with that planned pestilence. So, sixth chapter of the Bible has recorded very clearly a phenomenon that is staggering up to a climax, which in the Word of God is called Armageddon, the last great conflict. So that conflict will be nations that whose leaders are fighting for territorial integrity, national sovereignty, try to hold their economy in place, and other nations that have succumbed to the global rule and the global players who are making many different ideologies and phenomena that's taking away the sovereignty of the people. So one main confusion is the breaking up of the family with different ideologies. When you break up the family, delay marriage, denigrate marriage, a country loses the power of family life. All civilizations began to degrade when they lost the power of family life. So be mindful that we have a good shepherd, and he has already predicted the phenomena that are coming to pass. And this appointment of President Trump suddenly from nowhere is certainly a jolt for those who are planning a world ruled by a global regime. I'm not speaking good or bad. I'm just speaking the reality of global planners trying to take over sovereign countries and nations getting leaders who try to hold their country together. You have to read the Word of God further to understand this. Also, I have written a booklet on this called SARS-CoV-2. I can send you a booklet if you would send me your address, or if you would send me your WhatsApp, I can certainly send the soft copy. Please send a WhatsApp to 074 211 5011. And if you want any counseling on my usual topic of brain screen balance and kids getting digitized risk and into suicide, please contact my secretary and obtain an appointment free of any cost. 077 151 2801. I am Dr. Lalith Mendis. Thank you for listening.